Hello, what's up, everybody? It's January 5th, 2023. And today I wanted to talk about Mr. Ted Kaczynski. Is a figure that's, well known for a series of attacks on people working in the science and tech fields. Um, and I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing to talk about. There's a few different series out there about him. Let me see. One of them's pretty good on Netflix. It's called "The Unabomber in His Own Words." I've watched a few other series about him, and I just kind of wanted to talk about um, technology and where it could potentially be going in the future. I think that's probably something that a lot of people think about, especially younger people today. I'm sure a lot of people out there have watched the Netflix series. Oh God, I'm blanking out on the name now. Jesus Christ. The Netflix series about every different possibilities in the future, how technology can affect people. I'll think of it here in a second. How basically how things could go wrong in different ways. In the Black Mirror, that's what I was trying to think of. Black Mirror, how technology could you know possibly bring us towards some sort of like dystopian type future, different ways. So basically, for people who don't know about Ted Kaczynski, he was someone who was very intelligent. He went to Harvard. He was a mathematician. Um, so I'm sure at a young age he probably had, and people around him thought he had bright, prospects for, uh, a successful career, successful life, whatnot. So apparently, while he was attending Harvard, he got wrapped up in some sort of uh, psychological experiments or psychological tests that were being performed by a professor that was supposedly, I don't know if this is confirmed or allegedly working with the CIA on basically uh, ways to interrogate and break people down psychologically. I believe ways the government could use, CIA, FBI, I'm sure, use these interrogating tactics to break down, whatever political prisoners or prisoners of war, or terrorists, or whatever it is. So he was involved in these psychological tests during his time at Harvard. And supposedly there was a noticeable change. He had a younger brother. His family could see in him after his time at Harvard. So he went on to become a math professor for a short time, and then he went basically off the map into the woods. Um, so his whole thing is he thinks that basically technology is going to destroy humanity unless people go back to you know uh, a lifestyle where they're basically living like the Amish, essentially. Almost no technology, probably living in smaller communities, tight knit communities, no big cities, cars, computers, and anything like that. So it's interesting because the guy's still alive, for one. Ted Kaczynski, he's still alive. He was in a prison in, I believe, Florence, Colorado. But I saw something recently here, an article. Let's see if I can find it here. It says the man known as, this is from the LA Times, the man known as the Unabomber has been transferred to a federal prison medical facility in North Carolina after spending at least the last 2 decades in a federal supermax prison in Colorado for a series of bombings targeting scientists. Theodore Ted Kaczynski, 79, was moved to Federal Medical Center Butner in eastern North Carolina on December 14th, 2021, I believe. According to U.S. Bureau of Prisons spokesperson Donald Murphy, Murphy declined to disclose any details of Kaczynski's medical condition or the reason for his transfer. So it's interesting that because the guy's still alive, there's no. I'm guessing that the prison that he was at before in Colorado is the same prison that like people like El Chapo and terrorists are held at. I think it was very small. Probably less than 100 prisoners, or far less than 100 prisoners. So I'm guessing that he cannot have contact with any media or whatever, any outside people, civilians. Otherwise, you would think there would be, people trying to get to him for interviews and whatnot. So I don't know what his level of knowledge of the outside world is today. It'd be interesting to know if he does know what things are like, what his thoughts would be. I'm sure I could probably guess what that would be, but um, just kind of like thinking out loud. As far as the world today and where we're going, I think the first iPhone came out in something like 2008. So if you look at today, 2023 now, how people are so tied to technology, their phones, and it seems like every year it just gets, people are deeper and more deeply invested in technology. So I don't think that's going to change. Now, where it's going to go, as far as here in the US, might look different than other countries, places like China. I've never been to China, but from what I hear, um, they're using their technology in ways that are far more authoritarian. So it's probably closer to what Ted Kaczynski thought it would look like for people. I don't know if that'll start to look like that more in countries like the US, um, or if we can kind of keep that away. But it's just something kind of interesting to think about, and also it's just interesting how people interact with each other these days, especially after I think COVID probably made it significantly worse or sped up how introverted people have become. Uh, it seems like people. It used to be easier to go places and strike up, a conversation with somebody, um, and I don't know. That just seems like that used to be easier to do, and now people are more closed off and guarded. Um, and again, I'm hoping that as we come out of COVID, that things go back to some normal state, and people aren't afraid to interact with each other. That would be a sad world, but uh, anyways, it'd be interesting to hear anybody that sees this, to hear people's thoughts on where they think we're going in the future, as far as how dystopian things could possibly get. There was other more promising aspects that came out recently. I can't remember the series that came out, the name of it, the Netflix series that kind of targeted uh, the. Hold on one second. Let me targeted the ways that technology is kind of interfering with our life. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Terrible with remembering the names of documentaries. Oh yeah, the Social Dilemma. So that came out, and that kind of, I think, for a brief moment, brought to the top of everybody's mind and brought to awareness. Kind of how addicted are we to these different social media platforms, and how is it affecting our behavior, the social dilemma. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend that. So I don't know how big of an impact that made with people. I don't know how many people across the US, whatever, at their dinner tables with their families talked about it or continue to talk about it. How many people made an actual change in their lives or lifestyles? Um, that would be interesting to know. I hope that that did and will continue to be a topic of discussion with people. I know for me personally, like I was never big on social media. Um, I've always, whenever like something has come out, like an app or whatever, like I'll always generally kind of check it out just to see what it's all about. But really, I don't spend a whole, other than YouTube, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, but that's like really, I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram, Twitter, not so much more recently. Definitely not TikTok or like anything like that. I think that's more for younger people, but it's interesting to know if people have made any meaningful changes in their lives. I think as you get older, maybe you're more aware of that and how it's affecting you. I know one thing I've done is, as far as like Instagram and Twitter, I deleted the app off of my like phone homepage. So if I do want to get on to those platforms, whatever, I'll search somebody's Instagram handle or Twitter handle on the internet, click on it, and then that's how I'll get on those platforms. So it just makes it like one step harder to get to those platforms. So it makes it less easy that you're like, oh, you just see the app on your phone and you just click on it because you're bored. So um, I don't know if things, as far as like bringing it back to Ted Kaczynski, I don't know if things will truly be as like world ending, earth shattering as he predicted. Like technology just cannot live. We cannot live with technology in a way that, um, whatever, we can coexist in a peaceful manner that doesn't drive us all insane. I think he seemed to think that that was not possible. Um, I don't know that I believe that, uh, but I do think people need to do a better job, including myself, just as far as a balance in their life and getting back to, a place where you are comfortable with going out and interacting with people. And even if you don't have the same, whatever, like political ideology or the same opinions, like you can still talk to people in a respectful way and still like enjoy people's company. I feel like that's what people are kind of losing a little bit, is like you can't like even interact with people because it's just like you can't handle if they have a different opinion or whatever. Like that's insane. So it's like, I hope that's not where we're going. So, anyways, this is just a short one. Again, if anybody sees this and finds it somewhat interesting, I'd love to hear people's thoughts or opinions on the topic. All right, guys. Peace.